In 1999, New Mexico entrepreneur Linda Henning appeared to have it all.
Linda was the all-American girl, a beautiful girl, somebody who had a lot of talent creatively.
But that would suddenly change when she met a 34-year-old con man named Dyson Hassenkoft.
He would promise people that he had a magic elixir that would bring eternal youth to women.
And seemingly overnight, 45-year-old Linda Henning's storybook life would unravel.
She changed so dramatically, so quickly.
And the couple would soon be caught up in one of the most bizarre murder cases in U.S. history.
She's a reptilian alien force that needs to have human blood to remain in human form.
But her childhood wasn't exactly a big screen fairy tale. By the time she was 11 years old, her father had skipped out and her mother had remarried.
She never really quite accepted the stepfather. She always longed for her father.
But even without her father at home, there was no shortage of men in Linda's life. From high school on, she had a string of boyfriends. She seemed to idolize them all.
This is a person who, according to her own mother, would believe the moon was made out of cheese if a boy had said it.
After high school, Linda supported herself by modeling, but she wasn't content just to model clothes.
She was designing apparel, women's apparel, lingerie, things that were very, very unique.
By the late 1980s, she moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico to start her own clothing design company.
She knew some people in New Mexico and thought that if she went down there, she'd have a chance to get a labor force together for what she wanted to do with Southwestern art.
By 1999, she had a successful career, a beautiful house, and was engaged to a coworker.
Seemed to have it all going on. Great business sense, creative, fine dresser. She's all of that, and she's engaged to a really neat guy by all accounts.
Linda also developed an interest in a popular New Mexico preoccupation, UFOs and aliens.
Well, this area is known for UFO activity and stuff. You got Roswell, Area 51's not too far away from here.
She definitely had an interest in the unexplained, UFOs and other unexplained phenomena.
In July 1999, Linda was working out at her gym when she noticed 34-year-old Dyson Hassenkoft and introduced herself. He told her he was a doctor and former government scientist, but the reality was a little different.
Hassenkoft was not a doctor. Hassenkoft was absolutely 100% a fraud.
Dyson made his money by giving women injections of what he claimed to be youth serum. And his clients were sometimes paying thousands of dollars for each treatment.
Dyson Hassenkoft was exploiting a number of people for financial gain.
Within a month, Linda's relationship with Dyson had become more than professional.
She knew him 2 weeks, dumped the fiancé that she was going to marry.
But for Dyson, a romantic relationship with Linda was a bit more complicated.
Hassenkoft was married to a lovely young woman named Girlie Chu Hassenkoft. She was a girl from Malaysia.
In January 1999, after 6 years of marriage, the 36-year-old bank teller had filed for divorce. But Dyson wasn't prepared to lose any money to Girlie in the process.
She actually had the audacity to say, I deserve some of our stuff. This seems to be a moment that really triggers Hassenkoft's rage. He vows that she won't see a single dime.
And Dyson demonstrated just how seriously he took that vow.
Hassenkoft is calling her work. Hassenkoft is telling her on the telephone that you'll die and your body will never be found.
Girlie always told her employers, if I don't show up for work, something bad has happened, and it's probably Dyson Hassenkoft that has done it.
If Dyson was distracted by his ex, it didn't seem to impact his relationship with Linda. Her ex-fiancé was alarmed at the effect her new boyfriend seemed to have on her.
He kept telling me, I believe she has some chemical imbalance. She's not changing her clothes. She is not showering. Something is definitely wrong.
Linda told friends that Dyson was a 1,000-year-old alien and had promised Linda that she too had a special extraterrestrial destiny.
The reptile aliens were going to be coming to the Earth, and particular individuals would be their local emissaries. She was going to be the reptile queen.
Incredibly, according to Linda's friends, she hung on her new lover's every word.
His ability to know a person's strength and weakness enabled him to enamor Linda.
This guy could sell you just about anything he wanted to. He could tell whether or not you were susceptible to his kind of lies and then take advantage of you.
It was a little after 5 p.m. on the evening of September 9th, 1999, when Girlie Chu Hassenkoff walked out of the Uptown branch of the Bank of America. None of her colleagues suspected that this would be the last time they would ever see her. Her disappearance would result in an investigation that would reveal a bizarre and shocking crime. And at its center were Dyson Hassenkoff and Linda Henning.
Reptilian creatures, samurai swords, alien queens. There were all kinds of crazy things.
On the afternoon of September 12, 1999, Albuquerque police knocked on the door of Linda Henning. They were looking for Linda's new boyfriend, worried co-workers. When police searched Girlie's apartment, it was clear that something was wrong.
The first thing the police notice is a distinct odor of bleach. It was obvious that there was a damp spot on the carpeting, as if someone had tried to clean up something.
There were also minute drops of blood on the carpet and sofa.
There were found these 7 spots of blood.
Police called in a forensics team to take samples for DNA testing. Later that same day, 120 miles southwest of Albuquerque, a highway worker found a bundle of women's clothing and a tarp covered in blood.
There are panties, they're bloodstained. There's duct tape on the tarpaulin itself. There are some long strands of black hair.
The items were turned over to forensics, and police turned their eyes toward Girlie's estranged husband.
Hassenkoff becomes a suspect early on simply because of what Girlie said. If anything happens to me, it's Dyson who does it.
But when police had arrived at Dyson's home, they discovered the front door open and the house completely empty.
There's no sign of him. Nobody knows where he's gone.
Which is why Dyson's girlfriend, Linda Henning, found police on her doorstep on September 12th. Linda agreed to go back to the station and give a formal statement. But once there, detectives found her less than helpful. She downplayed her relationship with Dyson and claimed she had no idea where he was.
He said he was going to Dallas. Did he say he was going anywhere else after that? Or?
Colorado. Remember I said that?
Where in Colorado? Geez.
He didn't even give me any clues whatsoever.
Linda also insisted that she knew next to nothing about Dyson's estranged wife.
And he never said whether or not he knew where she lived or anything like that, or?
No. He just wanted to...
Was she working? Did you mention whether or not she worked or not?
He told me that she always worked, in the bank.
If Linda had hoped that would be the end of it, she was in for a surprise. 4 days later, detectives returned to request a DNA sample. With 2 missing persons, police were taking nothing for granted. Within a week, one of the missing persons was found. Detectives tracked Dyson Hassenkoff to Charleston, South Carolina.
He was found with another woman who had believed that they were going to be married.
He denied any knowledge of Girlie's whereabouts. Police took him into custody and transported him back to New Mexico. Meanwhile, a reluctant Linda Henning was forced to testify before a special grand jury convened to investigate Girlie's disappearance. She continued to insist she and Dyson were just friends and that she had never even met his wife. With no body, an uncooperative husband, and a reluctant witness, the investigation into what happened to Gurley Chu Hassenkoft had hit a dead end. That is, until results of DNA testing on the bloody carpet, clothing, and tarp came back. Some of the blood and hair was Gurley's.
We learned that the panties belong to Gurley Chu Hassenkoft. The blouse belongs to Gurley Chu Hassenkoft. The hair came from Gurley Chu Hassenkoft.
But not all of the blood and hair was Gurley's. And if detectives were expecting a positive DNA match with Dyson Hassenkoft, they were in for a shock. The other DNA belonged to Linda Henning.
There were long strands of hair that were found in the tarp that were Linda's. Gurley's blood, of course, was found in her apartment, but Linda's blood was found there too.
At the very least, Linda was there and involved in a struggle with Gurley Chu Hassenkoft.
Police wasted no time. A thorough search of Linda's home revealed a Japanese ninja sword hidden in the attic. Receipts showed that it had been purchased on the day of Gurley's disappearance.
Hassenkoft buys not a samurai sword, because that would be of a warrior. It's interesting, he buys a ninja sword. A ninja is an assassin.
Linda told police Dyson had given her the sword as a gift, and she had a ready explanation for hiding it.
She assumed that they'd see this sword and figure, oh, this must have something to do with it, so she put it up in the garage in her attic.
Detectives also uncovered more evidence that Linda had lied to the grand jury when she claimed she had never met Gurley. Bank of America records showed that Linda had banked at the branch where Gurley worked. In fact, on at least one occasion, Gurley had been Linda's teller.
Linda had gone to the bank and introduced herself to Gurley as a customer of the bank.
Though they couldn't yet prove murder, on October 29th, police formally arrested Linda Henning for perjury. 3 weeks later, despite the fact no body had been found, the grand jury was ready to make a controversial decision. On November 17th, they handed down first-degree murder indictments on both Dyson Hassenkoft and Linda Henning. Coming up, Linda's attorneys gamble on the testimony of a con man and alleged co-conspirator.
He testified, spilling this bizarre, vicious sort of story that's supposed to clear Linda of the crime.
On October 1st, 2002, Linda Henning walked into the Bernalillo County Courthouse in Albuquerque, New Mexico, to stand trial for the 1999 murder of her lover's estranged wife, Gurley Chu Hassenkoft. From the beginning, it was a historic case.
Linda was the first woman in New Mexico history since statehood that would have faced the death penalty.
In January of 2002, Dyson Hassenkoft, Linda's boyfriend, had surprised prosecutors by pleading guilty to planning the murder of his wife. Now a jury would determine if Linda was also a killer or another of Dyson's victims. The DA began by outlining the evidence prosecutors had assembled against Linda, including traces of her blood found at Gurley's apartment.
Prosecutors relied a lot on forensic evidence. They relied a lot on the blood stains that were found in Gurley's apartment.
But the defense, in its open, claimed that not only was Linda innocent of any involvement in the murder, but she hadn't even known about the problems that Hassenkoft had with his wife.
She just said no. I had no knowledge whatsoever about any of this until after the police started talking to me.
Linda's defense team also pointed out what they argued was the central flaw in the prosecution's case.
If there was going to be something that would snag this jury, it would be the fact that Gurley had never been found, that there was that possibility that she was still alive.
There were no eyewitnesses. There was no direct evidence that indicated that she was murdered. It was all circumstantial evidence.
The prosecution began by presenting evidence to back up their theory about how the crime was committed and why no body had been recovered.
They used the sword, making everybody think that she cut Gurley up and that's why we can't find her.
Then prosecutors called forensic experts who testified that Linda's DNA was found at the scene.
But with Linda Henning, you actually have DNA evidence. You have her blood found in the victim's apartment.
Also damning were the DNA results on the bloody tarp found beside the road.
Linda's blood was found on the tarp in which they believe Gurley's body may have been wrapped.
On the third day of the trial, prosecutors called a couple of Linda's friends to the stand. Their testimony, according to the DA, would explain Linda's motive. Dyson, the friends testified, had convinced Linda that she held the fate of the free world in her hands.
Linda apparently was an alien queen that had been sent here to save the world by killing Gurley Hassenkopf, who apparently was a rival alien queen.
The prosecution painted a picture of Linda Henning as a dangerous woman with bizarre beliefs. But for the packed courtroom, the real show was about to begin. On October 15th, the star witness for Linda's defense took the stand, Dyson Hassenkopf.
You swear testimony about to give us the truth under the penalty of perjury.
Dyson claimed that Linda had no involvement in the killing. He stated that he planted Linda's blood in the apartment, having taken it from her after he drugged her.
Did you put Linda Henning's blood in Gurley Hassenkopf's house?
Yes.
Did Linda Henning have anything to do with the murder of Gurley Hassenkopf?
No.
Anything to do with the kidnapping of Gurley Hassenkopf?
No.
He said that he was actually not necessarily trying to implicate Linda, but he was trying to skew the situation.
Putting a con man on the stand was a high-risk strategy.
A first-day law student, not a first year, a first-day law student would never use a liar as the crux of someone's defense. Never.
Dyson was the only witness for the defense, and with the death penalty still a possibility for Linda, the stakes couldn't have been higher.
You know what? It really doesn't make any difference to me. I don't care whether or not you kill this woman. You want to put the needle in her arm, go ahead. The only thing that's going to happen here is that you're going to kill my next victim.
The jury would never hear Linda's response to Dyson's testimony, or to the prosecution witness's testimony about her bizarre motive for killing Gurley. Her defense team decided it was too risky to put her on the stand.
We were really concerned about what she would ultimately say on the stand. We were also concerned that she never believed our defense, which was that Dyson planted the blood, even though he testified that he did.
When the case went to the jury on October 19th, Linda did not like her chances for acquittal.
Linda told me through the whole trial that it was in the cards, so to speak, that she would be found guilty.
On October 25th, the jury announced they had a verdict.
We find the defendant, Linda Henning, guilty of first-degree murder, felony murder, as charged in the alternative to count 1.
The jury convicted Linda of felony first-degree murder, but after a pretty brief period, they decided not to give her the death penalty.
She was not shocked. She was not overwhelmed. You know, she just looked at me like, I told you so.
On April 18, 2003, 49-year-old Linda Henning was back in the Bernalillo County Courthouse for sentencing. To ensure she served the maximum time, prosecutors added a gruesome new detail to their theory of how Dyson and Linda had disposed of Gurley Chu Hassenkopf's body.
Prosecutors made a statement that suggested that Gurley perhaps was eaten by Linda as part of this whole alien queen ritual.
Linda scoffed not only at the suggestion, but at the prosecutor himself.
He alleges I am a cannibal, an alien queen, and a ninja assassin warrior. Well, will he file a motion this week saying I'm the Easter Bunny?
Linda also stated Dyson had lied on the stand, that the blood was not hers, and that her defense team had been denied the opportunity to independently test the police lab's DNA results.
the APD crime lab stating the evidence was consumed by testing. What a coincidence. How lucky for them.
The judge refused to give Linda the maximum sentence of life, as the prosecution requested, but still sentenced Linda to a minimum of 73 years in prison.
That kind, gentle Linda Henning does not exist anymore.
This issue is about chain of custody. 220 items of evidence were taken. Only 9 were done properly.
It's an angry woman that's locked up, locked away forever.
"32-year-old Darlene Gentry was used to being the center of attention.
Darlene is an attractive woman. She's blonde, she's petite.
I called her the cute little blonde mommy.
But when she walked into a Texas courtroom on the morning of February 6, 2007, her looks weren't the only reason all eyes were on Darlene. The mother of 3 was on trial for murdering her husband, Keith.
You do not look at her and see killer at all. She looked like a prom queen.
That is, until they saw the tape.
You see Darlene with her blonde hair. I mean, you can obviously tell it's her.
Darlene Doskasil grew up in what passed for a spotlight in the tiny Texas town of Cameron.
She was on the flag corps. She was homecoming queen. Her personality just drew people to her.
Her pretty blonde looks didn't hurt either.
Darlene's probably about 5'5", blonde hair. Most men would say she is a striking woman.
Keith Gentry certainly did.
Darlene and Keith met at Texas State Technical College right here in Waco. She was taking dental assistant classes. He was in drafting and welding.
A small town boy from Robinson, Texas, he and Darlene had a lot in common. As a couple, they immediately clicked.
My first impression was his eyes. He just had the most beautiful eyes. He was handsome.
She just acted like Keith hung the moon. You know, whatever he wanted to do, they done.
We all hung around and we went dancing a lot. We used to go to Fort Worth, drink, have a good time together.
But when Darlene graduated in 1997, the relationship hit a rough patch.
He was being a typical guy, wanted to still run and go and do, and I think I was more ready to settle down, and so we ended up splitting up.
She went off to Dallas and worked for a dentist there.
She worked for this dentist until she got her car stolen in Dallas and decided to come home.
She also decided to come back to Keith.
They ran into each other at a dance and just started talking from that and got back together.
We were kind of happy that they did. We liked Darlene. We thought she was good for him.
Keith thought so too. Determined not to let her slip away a second time, in 1999, he asked Darlene to marry him. She said yes.
It was a typical Texas wedding. We did the barbecue and the dance afterwards. It was a good time.
It was a great thing. I was glad to see him get married and settle down.
After the wedding, Darlene went back to school to get her nursing degree, while Keith took a job as an engineering assistant for the local electric utility.
He was out of town nearly 4 days a week and come in and it was all Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Their careers on track, the newlyweds built a house next door to Keith's parents and started filling it with kids.
They had the boys, you know, pretty much back to back to back.
The first was born in 2000, followed by a second in 2003 and third in 2004. With 3 young boys, a new nursing job, and a husband who was on the road most of the week, Darlene had her hands full. Luckily, Keith's mom and dad were close by.
Their house was right next door to his parents, and it was easy for her to drop her children off.
Normally, my wife babysitted them all day.
Eventually, Keith took a job that kept him closer to home.
He took a job that was a daytime job, more of a desk job that he didn't really like.
By 2005, Darlene and Keith's 6-year marriage was showing signs of strain.
If anybody says they have a perfect marriage, they're lying, because it doesn't happen.
You could see a lot of problems starting. They didn't seem to be happy, and Keith wasn't happy.
Keith seemed determined to stick it out, though.
Keith had said to her and said to his family, I'm not going to leave her.
And he never would, at least not by choice. A little after 6 a.m. on the morning of November 9th, 2005, a call came into the Robinson, Texas 911 center. It was Darlene.
Robinson 911, what's your emergency? I got it this morning. I was in my son's room because I didn't sleep. My back door was open. My husband's guns are all gone. And there's one in your room. There's blood on the bed. He is struggling.
Keith, according to what Darlene told the dispatcher, had just been shot.
We have a lady on the phone that is a possible break-in in her house, and her husband's been shot. We do have PD units en route, but he's going to need medical attention. There's pink foam coming out of his mouth. He's making it god-awful sound.
Wednesday morning, November 9th, 2005. Darlene Gentry's father-in-law, Wayman, rushed over to his son's house.
I asked what happened, and they said, just stay in your own yard. I said, well, that's my son over there. He said, I don't care, stay in your own yard.
The cops cordoned off the house. Just outside the door, the officers made an unusual discovery.
Got guns on the ground right here.
One of the first things that I observed was a stack of weapons outside the house. That kind of seemed odd to me.
Inside, the cops found Darlene, still on the phone with the 911 operator. With their in-car camera mics recording, officers inside the house questioned Darlene about the assailant.
Do you have any idea who this could have been?
I have no idea.
Okay, do you know which way they went?
No, I saw nothing.
Moments later, an ambulance arrived. Wayman Gentry waited anxiously in the yard as the paramedics loaded up his son.
We saw him taking him out of the house on a stretcher with breathing apparatuses on him, and that's when we really figured something was bad.
Keith Gentry had been shot once in the head. He was alive, but barely. As the ambulance rushed Keith to the hospital, officers on the scene tried to figure out what was going on.
Something stinks about this, Gary. I think she did it. Something ain't right here, man. I'm telling you.
Dispatch advised me of a home invasion break-in.
But there were no signs of forced entry into the house or the gun cabinet that apparently had been the burglar's objective.
It's got a glass front. If it wasn't broken, whoever it was got the keys from on top of the cabinet and unlocked it.
With few clues at the scene, the cops turned to their only witness, Darlene.
I asked if she would come to the police department to allow me to interview her to determine who they may have had some problems with.
Originally, I thought, I wanted to help, tell him anything that I could.
Once in the interrogation room, Darlene laid out the events leading up to her 911 call.
Miss Gentry related to me that her children had been sick that night.
All three of the kids were up. I was trying to keep them quiet. We went off into my oldest
room when she awoke at 6 that morning.
My youngest son went crawling across me, and I realized, oh my God, we got to get up. Went out of the room. We did our routine.
Then, as Darlene explained it, she'd seen the open and empty gun cabinet.
She hollered at Keith to get up because the gun cabinet was open. And she said she hollered at him again.
When Keith didn't answer, she went into their bedroom.
She goes in to get her husband up, and she hears strange sounds coming from him, and going closer to look at him, she sees that there's blood on the bed, and that's when she calls 911.
And just a few minutes later, first responders showed up.
They asked if she had done anything to try to help him, and she said no, she didn't touch him.
Considering Darlene was a registered nurse, the fact that she did nothing to help her dying husband seemed odd to the investigators.
Even someone that's not trained in medical care, when their spouse is injured, they're going to try to do something to help that person. She made no effort.
But Darlene claimed she was just in shock.
I don't know if I was in a fog, or I was in shock. I don't know what it was. My main thing I remember thinking was just about the kids.
About an hour into Darlene's police interview, Detective O'Connor received a phone call from the hospital with bad news about her husband's condition.
The wound that he had sustained pretty much made him brain dead.
The investigator cut the interview short and drove Darlene to the hospital so she could sign the consent to take her husband off life support.
I never saw her actually really break down. She had tears in her eyes and mourned, but not like someone like that should have done.
Later that afternoon, Darlene went back to finish her interview. By that time, police already considered her a murder suspect. While her children confirmed that she had slept in their room, other parts of Darlene's story didn't seem to add up.
A burglar's not going to stay there and shoot a person unless he's caught in the act. And it was obvious that he wasn't caught in the act because Mr. Gentry was still in the bed. I had his head on the pillow.
What's more, whoever had tried to steal Keith's guns apparently hadn't wanted them that badly.
The guns were found in the front corner of their yard, essentially, closest to the house, and they were neatly stacked.
Leaving everything behind that you'd killed a person for, it just didn't make sense.
Darlene realized the detective taking her statement was looking for more than information. He wanted a confession.
He point blank tells me, I don't know what game you're trying to play. He was, basically accusing me right there. And I said, I think I need an attorney.
Meanwhile, the cops had compiled an inventory of Keith's guns. All of the weapons were accounted for, except one, an old revolver that they learned about from Keith's father.
It was a 9-shot, .22 caliber that Keith's father had given him. We were concerned that the .22 pistol was going to be the murder weapon.
Their concern turned out to be justified when, during Keith's autopsy, the medical examiner recovered the slug that had killed him.
The bullet was too badly damaged in his head to be able to match the bullet to the gun, but it was .22.
By Friday morning, November 11th, the cops investigating Keith Gentry's murder were no longer asking who. They were asking why.
We couldn't find anything of really a negative nature about him, any kind of spousal abuse.
A phone call to the Gentry's insurance agent did, however, suggest a motive.
He had 2 life insurance policies, and I believe it totaled around $750,000.
On November 27, 2005, the police went to a Waco judge and requested a warrant for Darlene's arrest on suspicion of murder.
The more they looked at her and maybe tried to eliminate her, everything just kept coming back to her.
The next morning, November 28th, Robinson police placed a call to Keith's dad.
So we'd like to talk with you. So I got my wife and we went up to City Hall and they said, we're arresting Darlene right now. It shocked us. Thoroughly shocked us.
Darlene insisted she was innocent, and family members were convinced the police were wrong. They helped her raise her $50,000 bail, and by that evening, she was out of jail.
And we had 100% belief in her that she didn't do anything.
Coming up, Darlene may have been better off if she'd stayed in jail.
I called Robinson Police Department and said, you're not going to believe what we've got on video.
When Darlene Gentry entered the McLennan County Courthouse on February 6, 2007 to stand trial for murder, the mother of 3 appeared confident, and she had her reasons.
Our biggest fear from the very beginning was that this was a pretty little blonde girl with no criminal history.
You do not look at her and see killer at all. I mean, she looks like a mom, she looks like a nurse. She does not look like someone who would kill her.
It was obvious from the crime scene that she took the gun and shot him while he was asleep. And her children were in the next room.
Then prosecutors claimed Darlene had carted her husband's guns outside, called 911, and started covering her tracks.
When she made the call, she went into this long, detailed explanation.
I got up this morning. I was in my son's room because I didn't sleep. My back door was open. My husband's guns are all gone.
In my business, they call it basically burying the lead. She had to go into all this detail before she actually said my husband had been shot.
The defense, in their open, argued that Darlene was simply in shock.
Just because I wasn't screaming at the top of my lungs does not mean that I wasn't worried about what was going on with my husband.
And her attorney claimed Darlene's stunned behavior had unfairly made her the sole focus of the subsequent investigation.
She was the only suspect that they ever focused on, and there are many other possibilities.
Listening to the recorded of the morning of everything happened, 7 minutes into it, the initial guy already made the statement, you know, something's not right. I know she did this.
Something stinks about this, Gary. I think she did it.
Considering the evidence, a jury might have found the argument reasonable.
This was a circumstantial case. It was not one of these cases where you have a confession or a bunch of eyewitnesses.
The prosecution's star witness didn't even become involved in the case until weeks after Keith's death. He was an acquaintance of the Gentrys named Robert Pavelka. On February 7th, he took the stand and testified about a phone call he received from Darlene in November of 2005, just days before she was arrested.
She wanted to buy a house if I had one for sale.
She was looking to move, not live in the house where the murder had taken place.
Pavelka, according to his testimony, informed Darlene that he didn't have any houses available. But if she wanted to build one, he did have some property.
I gave her directions where it was at. She called that next day and said, "Did the pond come with the land?" I said, "Yeah, that's part of it." She said, "Well, that's great because Keith always wanted a place for his kids to go fishing."
Pavelka told the jury he'd met with Darlene a few weeks after her arrest while she was out on bond. She still wanted the land, but not the pond.
We walked it, looked at it, she got ready to go. Then she says, "Well, you can take your bulldozer and push that pond in now."
She wanted the pond filled in, and he, for whatever reason, got suspicious. He knew who she was and what she had been accused of at that point.
Pavelka testified that evening he called a friend in the police department.
I just called him. I said, "Hey, it's probably nothing, but what do you think about this?" And he said, "It's worth a shot."
To explain what happened next, prosecutors called Texas Ranger Steve Foster to the stand.
First she wanted the water, now she doesn't want the water. My first thought was she had thrown the weapon in there.
Foster immediately called in a dive team.
Probably 10 to 15 minutes after getting into the water, one of the divers found the weapon.
It was Keith's missing .22. But the Rangers, as the DA explained to the jury, didn't stop there.
They told Mr. Pavelka to call her and tell her that he was going to drain the pond.
We thought she might show up out there to try to find the weapon.
And if she did, the Rangers would be ready.
They sat up there with a video camera back there in the brush and waited.
On February 8th, the prosecution played the surveillance tape for the jury.
You see Darlene with her blonde hair. I mean, you can obviously tell it's her. And she is fishing, and she's fishing, and she's fishing. And I mean, she is looking for something.
She couldn't find it because we'd already had it.
With the image of Darlene looking for the murder weapon fresh in the jury's mind, the prosecution rested its case. The packed courtroom now waited to hear Darlene's defense. But they wouldn't hear it from her. Her attorney advised her not to take the stand.
If Darlene had testified in the trial, she would have had to answer some questions, which I think might have been very difficult for her to answer.
9 times out of 10, once you get up on the stand, they turn everything around, and it doesn't do you any justice to be up there. It's more harm done than good.
So what would her defense do to counter the surveillance video? The answer, when it came time for Darlene's attorney to present her defense, was nothing.
Gentlemen of the jury, we rest.
When he stood up there and said, "We rest," I was in such a total state of shock.
After that film was shown, I mean, he let the jury go, let everybody go with that picture in their mind.
It took the jurors just 5 hours to come back with a verdict. They found Darlene Gentry guilty of murder and sentenced her to 60 years in prison.
They've got her in broad daylight, kicking around in the pond in the same exact spot where they pulled the gun out of it. They pretty much just sealed the deal.
Immediately after her trial, Darlene filed an appeal for a new trial, claiming the surveillance tape should never have been allowed in court. She says she heard a rumor that the gun had been thrown into the pond.
Whoever threw it in there basically gave me enough of a push to get paranoid, and I wasn't real sure if I wanted the cops getting a hold of the gun, just because in my mind they had already had me set as the person that had done this.
Even at the time, she realized it was a mistake.
I remember feeling like, okay, this is wrong. I shouldn't be doing this. Basically, whoever did it, plus the cops set me up. That's why I'm sitting in here today.
But as far as Keith's family and friends are concerned, sitting in jail is exactly where Darlene belongs.
We were worried that there was the possibility that she would get off. And I think she was kind of counting on the fact that here she was, this pretty blonde mother of 3 young boys, and that, you know, nobody would ever believe that she could possibly have done it. I think she's exactly where she needs to be.
In the spring of 2005, 26-year-old Monique Berkeley all but broke down when her husband Paul, a Navy reservist, was reactivated and deployed to the Middle East.
She would sit in bed crying because she missed him so much.
By the end of the year, though, Paul was back home in North Carolina. And on the evening of December 17th, Monique planned to make the most of their reunion.
They went out to dinner. They went to a movie.
Later, the couple went to a nearby park for what was supposed to be a romantic interlude.
They had blankets, they had candles, they had chocolates.
The occasion, after all, called for celebration. Paul was home safe. But as it would turn out, he wasn't out of danger.
Who is that out here in the background?
My husband.
Has he been shot?
Yes.
Oh.
She had grown up in Florida, gone to Catholic school, was a good student, was well-liked.
In 1998, while surfing the web, the 18-year-old caught the attention of a California woman named Marky.
We met on the internet through a AOL chat room. First started talking. I think she said that she was bi, but as far as having any previous relationships with a female, no.
A long-distance romance followed. Finally, after months of instant messages, emails, and phone calls, in April of 1999, Monique flew out to California and met Marky face-to-face. A few weeks later, she moved in with her.
They had a civil union, so she was essentially married to this other woman.
Monique's marriage didn't last, however. She'd only been in California a few months when she met Paul Berkeley, a 40-year-old Navy veteran and divorced father of 2. Paul had trained as a computer programmer. But after his divorce and Navy discharge, he'd bounced through a string of jobs and girlfriends.
He owned a strip club, and a lot of his girlfriends he met through there, unfortunately.
Paul was single, unemployed, and living not far from where Monique's girlfriend Marky worked.
I was working at a convenience store, and Paul was a regular customer.
One night in March, Marky introduced Paul to Monique.
After I got off work, it's maybe 11 or midnight, we went to Paul's apartment.
That night, Monique and Marky hung out at the older man's apartment for a few hours. But the next night, when Marky came home around midnight, she found a note by the phone.
She left Paul's phone number, and I called, and no answer. And I called, and no answer.
Monique never answered the phone, but she did come home the next morning, briefly.
She came home maybe 11 or 12 and said, well, you know, I think I'm going to go stay with Paul.
Monique packed up her things and moved in with Paul. A few weeks later, he took Monique over to his ex-wife's house and introduced her to his kids, Becky, age 10, and Zeke, 12.
My dad said, this is Monique, and we were like, oh, you know, nice to meet you. And he said, this is your future stepmom. And it was kind of shocking, especially to her. Her face was She was really surprised, so yeah.
Surprise or not, Paul wasn't kidding. In April of 2001, 6 months after Monique's 21st birthday, the couple drove to Vegas for a quickie wedding. And despite the 20-year difference in their ages, everyone seemed thrilled with Paul's new bride.
Everyone loved Monique. All of my dad's family, even my biological mom, everyone loved Monique. Because after a slew of not-so-stable girlfriends, to finally have Monique in the picture, it was really good.
After the wedding, Paul re-enlisted in the Navy Reserves and started applying for computer jobs again. And in 2003, after landing a position with a company in North Carolina, Paul, Monique, and the kids moved to the Raleigh suburb of Clayton.
He wanted to raise his children in a small town, a safe place, and hence they came to Clayton, which is what anybody would think would be an all-American town to raise your children in.
The Berkeleys fit right in, despite the fact that Monique was only a few years older than her stepkids.
She was what I thought a mom should be. She would tell me to do my homework every night. Every night she would make a home-cooked meal.
But the family had barely settled into their new home when in the spring of 2005, Paul's reserve unit was activated and shipped off to the Persian Gulf. Suddenly, with her husband overseas, Monique found herself in the middle of another long-distance relationship.
Given his career and being involved with the computer, there were telephone calls, but there were also webcams and that type of thing.
She would email him every day. She would sit in bed crying because she missed him so much.
So much that for the first few months he was away, their bedroom remained exactly as her husband had left it.
I mean, he'd even left a pair of pants, his jeans, on the floor in their bedroom. She wouldn't let us move it to the laundry hamper because she wanted to stay exactly where it was.
Zeke and Becky missed their dad too, but they were also teenagers in a new town and a new school. And after a period of adjustment, both began making new friends. One of the first was another newcomer named Andrew Canty.
Andrew Canty was new to the area. He had just moved from New York. The principal said, yes, he was a student, but he missed so many days. I considered him a dropout.
Before long, Andrew Canty and another friend named LaTwan Johnson were regulars around the Berkeley house.
LaTwan and Andrew both had crushes on me and were both kind of fighting for me in a sense, but we're still best friends.
Eventually, after a few weeks of friendly rivalry, LaTwan won Becky Berkeley's affections.
It kind of gradually grew into a Becky and LaTwan situation, where LaTwan and I liked each other and eventually began dating.
Andrew didn't seem to mind losing out to LaTwan, however. He'd already moved on to someone else, Monique.
By all accounts, he was her boyfriend. I mean, obviously the children knew it.
Monique and Andrew would go into my parents' bedroom sometimes, and I would not think anything of it. I just kind of ignore it. And then eventually, Monique and Andrew would hold hands in front of me, and now and then even kiss.
At the end of the summer, the teen moved in with Monique.
This was just an easy situation. He had a house to sleep in, someone who was paying for his clothes and food, and, you know, a woman that he would sleep with.
Becky and her brother, unsure of just how serious the affair was, decided not to tell their father.
I was afraid to tell our dad because we were afraid of hurting our father. I just kept telling myself, if I tell my dad right now, if I call him in Iraq and tell him what's happening, what can he do about it?
Besides, after months of moping around the house, their stepmother was finally happy again.
She kind of stopped crying about him being gone, eventually washed those jeans and hung them up.
The situation, however, would be short-lived. On December 14, 2005, Paul Berkeley arrived back home in North Carolina on 2 weeks' leave.
He was very excited about coming home, was very excited about being with his children and being with Monique.
Andrew Canty, on the other hand, didn't see much of an upside to Paul's homecoming.
Shortly before he arrived back at their Clayton home, Andrew had moved out.
When Paul arrived home, he didn't exactly receive a hero's welcome.
At the airport, when we picked him up from the Raleigh-Durham airport, he tried to kiss her, and Monique just kind of turned her head and was being really awkward around him.
And when Andrew Canty and LaTuan Johnson showed up at the Berkeley house, Andrew's attitude aroused Paul's suspicions.
Andrew was being really awkward. So that, combined with the fact that Andrew came into our house hours after my dad got home from Iraq, was making him increasingly suspicious.
But before Paul could become too suspicious, Monique made an effort to divert his attention. She spoke openly about her plans to take her husband to the movies, and then, after the movie, out for a romantic evening in the park.
Monique had talked to Paul about having some sort of romantic get-together, romantic moments at a park in North Raleigh.
Monique had made sure that everything was ready ahead of time.
Monique had some chocolates and champagne.
But despite all her careful planning, the night at the park would go horribly wrong.
911 emergency.
I've been shot.
Been shot?
It was not quite 3 a.m. on the morning of December 18, 2005, when a call came into the Raleigh Police Department 911 center. The caller was Monique Berkeley.
Hello?
I've been shot.
Been shot? What is your address?
I'm at a park.
And she wasn't alone.
Who is that out here in the background?
My husband.
Has he been shot?
Yes.
Who shot him?
Location either.
When you entered this park, you still had quite a distance to travel in a vehicle to get back to where this actually had taken place. Between the parking lot and a picnic shelter.
Do you still see the blue light?
No.
I need you to scream just as loud as you can scream. They're out there, they're trying to find you.
Okay. I'm back here.
Finally, after more than 15 agonizing minutes, the cops arrived on the scene.
Okay, where you shot at?
Paul wasn't so lucky. He'd been shot in the head. Within minutes, both Berkeleys were in the back of an ambulance, bound for the hospital. Once in the emergency room, Monique asked a nurse to phone her stepkids.
I hear my brother on the phone, and he's saying, really? Okay, what are we gonna do? And I'm like, what is wrong? He hung up, and I said, Zeke, what's wrong? He said, that was the hospital. They just called and said something is wrong with Monique.
It wasn't until they reached the ER a half hour later that Becky and Zeke learned the awful truth about their father.
And a nurse explained to me that he was what they called brain dead.
Later that morning, when the doctors took Paul off life support, Monique and the children were by his side.
Monique went to my dad's right side and held that hand. My brother went to his left side and held that hand. I wanted to hold one, but I said, I'll let Monique go ahead and hold that one since I know she really loves him and this is hurting her right now.
While Monique, Becky, and Zeke were saying goodbye to Paul, investigators combed the trail, searching for any sign of the shooters. All they found were a couple of .45 caliber shell casings and a picnic basket.
There was a basket that contained some candy, some wine, everything that would be needed for a romantic evening.
The question was, who was lurking in the park at 3 a.m., waiting to ambush a couple in the middle of a romantic rendezvous?
It was very unusual for this to be a random type event. Somebody would never expect to have a potential victim come down into a park like this.
From the park, Detective Perry headed to the hospital to talk to Monique.
She was in a wheelchair. Her arm was in a sling. I just began having a conversation with her, trying to determine if she had any idea who might have had some knowledge that they were coming to the park.
Monique told the investigator that she and Paul had gone to the movies as they'd planned, and then headed over to the park alone. And when Detective Perry asked her who besides her family knew about the rendezvous in the park, Monique had a ready answer.
She did indicate that Andrew Canty, a young man who had moved in with her at her home in Clayton, was aware of the fact that she and Paul were planning on going to this park after the movie.
Monique, pumped full of painkillers, didn't stop there, however.
Monique was under various levels of sedation, and she gave a pretty detailed statement to law enforcement about what had happened.
And the more Monique rambled, the more her statement started to sound like a confession.
Ultimately, there at the hospital, she confessed to taking part in the whole scenario to kill her husband.
The plan, as Monique told the cops, was for Andrew and his friend LaTwan to ambush Paul in the park. But according to Monique, she believed that the plan had been called off.
The statement that she gave was that she wasn't really involved at the end, and at the last minute professed her love for Paul and decided that she couldn't participate.
Monique said that thinking Andrew and LaTwan's ambush had been aborted, she and Paul had gone ahead with their romantic evening in the park.
She told authorities that when she arrived, she did not see their car, and so she believed the plan had been called off.
Unaware that Monique had fingered them for murder, when the authorities caught up with them that afternoon, both boys were acting like concerned friends, not fugitives.
They were en route to Raleigh to the hospital when they were stopped by the police.
The two teenagers were immediately arrested for murder. And as soon as she was released from the hospital on Monday, December 19th, the police also arrested Monique.
They took her right from the hospital. She was still wearing a hospital gown. Her arm was still in a sling from where she had been shot in the shoulder.
Coming up, Monique is faced with a life and death decision. If not for the striped jail jumpsuit, it would have been tough to imagine Monique Berkeley was charged with first-degree murder when she was led into a North Carolina courtroom on September 26, 2007.
Monique Berkeley came in what I would call Heidi braids. Very tearful and very sad looking. And she gave you this impression of being this scared, hurt little girl.
The 27-year-old had reason to be scared. The DA claimed she and teen co-conspirators Andrew Canty and LaTwan Johnson were behind the December 2005 murder of her husband, Paul. Monique claimed she had called off the plan to kill Paul, but the authorities weren't buying it. If convicted, she faced a possible death sentence. Monique did, however, have a way out. Earlier that month, prosecutors had offered her a deal: plead guilty in exchange for life without parole.
People make a decision between the potential of the death penalty or serving life in prison, and most people would choose life.
Andrew Canty already had. A month earlier, in August, he'd taken the same deal prosecutors were now offering Monique.
We were concerned that Andrew was going to be convicted, and because of the nature of the offense, we were very concerned that Andrew was going to get the death penalty.
Andrew's attorney had reason to be concerned. Not only did the cops have Monique's confession, they also had LaTwan's. The break had come back in 2006 as prosecutors sought to strengthen their case against Monique.
We initially approached both the attorneys for Andrew Canty and LaTwan Johnson to see if their clients wanted to talk with us about what happened.
LaTwan had given a long statement to law enforcement without the benefit of any plea agreement.
LaTwan, according to his statement, had joined in on the murder plot for a cut of Paul's life insurance payoff.
I think it was about $400,000, and prosecutors told us they promised about $70,000 to LaTwan Johnson.
LaTwan told prosecutors that on the night of the murder, Monique had called Andrew from the movie theater to confirm the plan. That contradicted Monique's statement to police that she thought the ambush had been aborted.
That part of her statement was her trying to remove herself from the actual participation.
Instead, according to LaTwan, Monique had known exactly what she was walking into when she and Paul started down the park path early on the morning of December 18, 2005.
When Paul and Monique went by, Andrew Canty came up behind him and shot him into the head.
Then, according to LaTuan, Andrew had carefully shot his girlfriend in the shoulder.
The plan was to shoot Monique to make it really look authentic.
To convince the cops that his story was authentic, LaTuan had led detectives to the man who'd sold Andrew and Monique the murder weapon.
From a ballistic standpoint, we were able to conclusively link that particular gun to be the murder weapon.
In the light of such overwhelming evidence, the prosecutors hadn't exactly been surprised when Andrew Canty decided to take the plea deal.
The hardest part would have been the cross-examination of LaTuan Johnson when it's combined with all of the other evidence in the case.
And it was that same evidence that brought Monique Berkeley into court on the afternoon of September 26, 2007.
We had decided that since Andrew Canty had received a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole, that we would make that same offer to Monique Berkeley, and she accepted.
In court, Monique pled guilty to the first-degree murder of Paul Berkeley.
She seemed visibly upset, and you never know. Is the person crying because they know they're going to prison for the rest of their life, or are they crying because they're genuinely sad? But she was very distraught.
As arranged by the plea agreement, Monique was sentenced to life without parole.
Now and then, I do miss her. Now and then, I do want to tell her, I hope you're okay in jail. But then 99% of the time, I just want to know that she's upset in jail and that she's feeling some type of pain for what she did to my dad.
Just after 8 o'clock on the morning of November 6, 1994, two tourists in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in Tennessee made a gruesome discovery.
The black Jeep was over an embankment, probably 30 feet down. Inside was the body of a young white male. There was a lot of blood in the Jeep.
The victim was Kelly Lavera, a teacher who had just moved to nearby Sevierville with two children and his wife, Shane. Within hours, investigators determined Kelly's death was no accident.
When they got there, they obviously realized something was wrong because this guy wasn't sitting behind the wheel. He was lying in the back of the Jeep.
He appeared to be severely beaten around the head.
The search to find out who killed Kelly Lavera would eventually lead investigators to his widow and reveal a twisted web of deceit and murder.
This has all the components of a made-for-TV movie. It has your sex, your murder, and small-town politics.
Good was the only daughter of a teenage mother and father. Her early childhood was tough.
She was born into a rather lower working class family.
After her parents split up, her mother remarried. Almost overnight, 7-year-old Shane and her mother went from poverty to privilege.
Her stepfather was Brent Mills, who was a very well-known bank president in Gatlinburg, was fairly well off. They lived in a nice home.
Her stepfather, Brent, made sure his new family wanted for nothing.
She was well-to-do. I can remember she had this really cool convertible car, and I'm driving some Pinto or something.
At school, Shane was a standout student.
She was the junior miss. She was the president of the ski club. She was the editor of the high school yearbook.
These weren't the only extracurricular activities Shane enjoyed.
She was very smart, but she was also wild. She was a party girl.
But in May 1984, it looked like the party might be over. The bank run by Shane's stepfather came under federal scrutiny for unethical loan practices. But he would never see the results of the probe.
There was an investigation at the bank, and he subsequently committed suicide.
So you had all this scandal. So she went from being in a wealthy family with good standing to being surrounded by allegations and suspicions. She ended up leaving to go to college.
It was during her freshman year at college in Missouri that Shane found a different kind of security with another student, 23-year-old Kelly Lavera.
Kelly was the all-American boy. Tall, good-looking, athletic. He played trombone in the marching band. He was a real charmer.
There were like two Kellys, the very intelligent,
nose to the grindstone type of person, and then the weekend side of him where he was his, he liked to play cards and ride his bike and hang out with his buddies.
And both sides of Kelly seemed to appeal to Shane.
He was very stable at a time when her life was in great upheaval. That was the attraction.
There was, however, just one problem. Kelly was engaged.
He had been going with a girl for 3 or 4 years, I think. And then when he met Shane, it just sort of, it was like, wow, this is the one I want.
Shane is a vivacious person, and you're drawn to her. So I could certainly see where he would be drawn to her.
After a year of dating, Shane and Kelly were married. The couple soon started a family. By 1990, now with 2 small children in tow, they decided to move closer to Shane's family in Tennessee. Shane got a job in sales, and Kelly was hired as a math instructor at a community college.
He was just a fantastic instructor. All the students loved him.
Kelly was just as popular with his children.
He was a good father with the kids. He always played with the kids, and they loved him.
The Laveras rented a small apartment in a Sevierville neighborhood known as Frog Alley. A huge contrast with Shane's privileged upbringing in Gatlinburg.
She had gone literally from being this Gatlinburg socialite, an heiress, to living in Frog Alley in Sevierville in an apartment.
Shane's tastes, however, hadn't changed to fit the family budget.
They were in terrible debt, and they were well over their heads financially.
Despite their money troubles, Shane hadn't lost her wild side. She acquired a reputation for organizing parties in the apartment complex.
Much of this apartment was populated with single people or with young marrieds who simply liked to party.
They all managed to get together and party fairly regularly.
One of the Lavera's neighbors in Frog Alley was Brett Ray, the 24-year-old son of a local newspaper owner.
He was just a young guy who partied. He wasn't very ambitious or very talented, but he was a nice guy.
He and Shane hit it off from the start.
Brett's the sort of guy that Shane would go for. They were both wild.
On the night of November 5th, 1994, Shane organized an outdoor barbecue for her neighbors at the complex.
Everyone having a great time, everyone drinking too much, gambling too much.
But it would end very differently. Kelly was one of the first to leave.
Kelly had gone into their apartment like about 1 o'clock in the morning. The party was still going on. He fell asleep on the couch.
And when the party finally broke up an hour later, departing guests had no reason to suspect they would never see Kelly again.
From the physical evidence, I think he was asleep, and they took the ball bat to him and beat him to death on the couch.
It was the morning of November 6, 1994. 2 tourists traveling through the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in Tennessee reported what looked like an accident in the valley below.
The black Jeep was over an embankment, probably 30 feet down, that had hit a small tree. Inside was the body of a young white male.
Within the hour, police had identified the victim as Kelly Lavera, a college professor and resident of nearby Sevierville. Kelly was pronounced dead at the scene. What at first had been presumed an accident soon began to look to investigators like something else.
He wasn't behind the steering wheel. That's one key, if he's in the back seat, that maybe he wasn't driving the car.
And that wasn't all that roused detectives' suspicions. Although the Jeep had crashed nose first, they noticed blood appeared to have been dripping from the back of the vehicle.
The blood was running up out of the back of the Jeep, which was facing uphill, which of course was impossible.
Impossible unless Kelly was already bleeding before the crash. Given the nature of Kelly's injuries, this looked like a distinct possibility.
He appeared to be severely beaten around the head.
What had started out as a crash investigation had now become a murder investigation. An hour later, detectives broke the news of Kelly's death to his wife, Shane. She told police that she'd last seen Kelly earlier that morning.
She had told law enforcement Kelly had gotten off the couch. They had argued around 4:30, and that he then left, and that, he never came back.
Shane seemed uninterested in learning how her husband had died.
Most people want to know what happened. They're obviously distraught about the situation, but they want to know what happened. They want to know the details. She didn't ask.
Investigator David Davenport noticed something else that was odd.
There was something that smelled bad in the whole house. And also, the couch was wet.
Detectives took Shane to the sheriff's department for more questioning. But she wasn't there long.
She had requested an attorney, and at that point, we shut down the interrogation.
After Shane left the station, detectives decided to search her apartment. But before they could get a warrant, there was an unexpected break in the case.
I got a call to come back to the sheriff's department that there was an individual there who had information about the murder.
The individual reported that a friend of his had given a lift to Brett Ray that morning. On the drive, Brett had made a surprising boast.
When he got in the vehicle, he started talking. He said, well, I did it. I just ran Kelly off the side of an embankment.
The cops immediately arrested Brett. But once in custody, he was a little less eager to talk.
He claims to know nothing about it, and he stuck to his guns.
Though the attention of police was focused on Brett, Shane's behavior was still raising eyebrows. At the memorial services for her husband, Shane wasn't exactly acting like a grieving widow.
She was at the memorial service, and she showed up in a pair of shorts, which was a little unusual. It seemed inappropriate.
And it wasn't just her choice of clothing that was unusual.
She and her sister were laughing and carrying on the outside of the funeral home.
Meanwhile, Shane's behavior had also put her back on the police radar, particularly her relationship with the prime suspect in her husband's murder.
We developed the fact that was true, that there was a romantic relationship going on.
On November 8th, 2 days after Kelly's death, detectives returned to the apartment with a search warrant and the forensic spray luminol, which reveals traces of blood invisible to the naked eye. The luminol revealed a shocking new twist in the case, a trail of blood leading from the couch where Kelly had fallen asleep.
You could see where the blood pattern started on the couch. There was a drag pattern all the way through the hallway, out through the children's bedroom, across the windowsill. They had tried to clean it, but you can't clean blood and you can't get the enzymes up.
Which meant that at least one part of Shane's story was true.
She was correct to the extent that he had left the apartment, but he didn't walk out of there. He was dragged out of there after being beaten to death.
The blood splatter evidence was damning. On December 13th, 1994, Shane was arrested for the first-degree murder of Kelly Lavera. Coming up, shocking testimony from another of Shane's lovers.
She was talking to the other individual she was having an affair with about poisoning her husband. He thought, of course, at the time she was just kidding.
Though she stood accused of murdering her husband, 29-year-old Shane Lavera appeared calm and collected as she walked into Sevier County Circuit Court on March 26, 1996. Shane's lover, 26-year-old Brett Ray, also accused of the killing, would be tried alongside her.
Upon a conviction of first-degree murder, they were eligible for either life without parole or life with a possibility of parole. The state was seeking life without the possibility of parole.
In his opening arguments, the prosecutor told the court that Kelly had been killed by both Shane and Brett. Shane, he claimed, had been motivated by greed for Kelly's life insurance policy.
There was insurance on her husband's life. That insurance, in fact, doubled if he died as a result of an accident.
But Shane couldn't do it alone. Brett's desire to please Shane, the prosecutor claimed, had made him more than happy to assist.
He was deeply in love with Shane. This may have begun as strictly lust, but something happened along the way.
Shane's defense attorney, in his opening statement, didn't deny that Kelly had been killed in the Lavera's apartment. But, he argued, Shane was not the killer.
Shane's theory of defense was that Brett was obsessed with her and that it was a fatal attraction sort of thing. He kills the husband in order to score points with her.
Remarkably, Brett's lawyer didn't deny this theory.
Basically, I think the defense was that give him something less than first degree, because we pretty well had him.
As a judge, you sit there and wonder why no defense is being offered. It later came out, he apparently told his counsel not to present any defense.
The first witness for the prosecution was the medical examiner, who testified that Kelly's death had been violent.
How many wounds in all did you find on the head?
12 wounds on the head.
According to the DA, both Shane and Brett had bludgeoned Kelly to death. The evidence showed they had then dragged Kelly's body through the bedroom of the couple's 2 children and out the window. And given the route the body took through the apartment, the prosecution hinted at an even more gruesome possibility.
There's always speculation about whether the children may have witnessed what happened.
Once the body was in the Jeep, the state argued Shane had gone back inside to clean while Brett drove the vehicle to the mountains. There, he tried to send the Jeep over the edge of a mountain. By sheer chance, however, the Jeep didn't make it to the bottom, where it might have remained undiscovered for months.
Jeep, instead of going sideways and tumbling over and over, went straight down the side of the mountain and only traveled about 30 feet before it came head-on to a hickory tree.
With the Jeep now undrivable, there was not much Brett could do except walk to nearby Gatlinburg and call a friend to give him a lift home. Thanks to Brett's boasting on that ride home, the state had a strong case against him. The case against Shane was more circumstantial.
Brett was making mistakes from, the minute one and talking about his involvement. Whereas Shane, she didn't talk about her involvement at all.
Brett not only refused to offer a defense, he also refused to testify against his lover.
He was so in love with Shane, he didn't want to risk her missing the opportunity for freedom. If he testified, he would reveal enough evidence that they might convict her.
With Brett unwilling to testify, the prosecutor called a witness who would. Wade Hill was a neighbor of Brett's, and he claimed that wasn't all the two had in common.
Shane was pretty well cut loose and wild. She was having affairs with at least 2 or 3 other men.
Hill was one of these men, and once on the stand, he told the courtroom that Shane had an unusual topic for pillow talk.
She talked to him about killing her husband, wanted to talk to him about types of poison that might not be detected. He thought at the time, of course, that she was joking.
With Hill unwilling to get involved, the prosecutor claimed Shane went in search of a lover who might be a little more willing. That man, he argued, was Brett Ray. The prosecution rested on March 27th, but the real show was about to begin. The first witness called by the defense was Shane herself. Once on the stand, Shane denied any involvement in the crime.
The general premise of her defense was that she went to sleep and apparently Brett came back to the house and did this on his own.
Shane told the court that Brett had killed her husband in a fight fueled by Kelly's jealous rage.
Shane claimed that Brett came by to talk to her. Kelly saw Brett, became very angry, and they fought in the living room.
My son's baseball bat was in the living room. And he said he just picked it up and swung at him to get him away from him. He had hit him, I don't know how many times. And he finally fell back onto the couch.
According to Shane, Brett then dragged Kelly's body out of the apartment and cleaned the apartment afterwards, all while she was sleeping. She even denied that she and Brett were anything more than neighbors.
She claimed that they didn't have an affair on the stand.
But under cross-examination, the prosecutor confronted Shane with evidence that not only had she and Brett been lovers before Kelly's murder, their affair had continued long afterward. When both Shane and Brett had been out on bail, detectives had tailed them, hoping for proof of their relationship. And they got it.
The police actually followed them up into the mountains and witnessed them strip within this Jeep with the top off and make love in the woods.
Confronted with evidence of the affair, Shane told the jury she had only had sex with Brett because he threatened to implicate her in Kelly's murder.
My purpose in going there was trying to save what little bit of a life I had left at that point.
Well, you had done nothing. You weren't involved in this.
No, I hadn't. But I was also out on bond and under arrest.
But the DA hadn't finished with Shane yet.
He was threatening you, so you had plans on his birthday to fix him pina coladas and give him a bubble bath.
Those were not my plans, those were his.
Her continued relationship with him after he had murdered her husband, I think that testimony was very damaging.
She was a very able witness, very intelligent, but there's simply no way she could explain the circumstances.
On March 28th, the jury retired to consider its verdict. It took them just 90 minutes to reach a decision.
We, the jury, find the defendant Brett Ray guilty of murder in the first degree. The jury find the defendant Elisa Shane Lavera guilty of murder in the first degree.
When the couple returned the next day for the sentencing hearing, their lawyers made a surprise announcement. Under the terms of a deal, Shane and Brett would change their plea to guilty in exchange for the chance of parole in 25 years. They would also be denied the right to appeal.
On appeal, that case might come back 4 or 5 years down the road, and the family certainly did not want to go back through that again.
But Shane's reluctant plea and lack of apology left some family members unsatisfied.
She pleaded guilty. And the judge even made her say it a couple of times, louder. But she never did admit killing him. She turns around.